Greg, welcome to the Way Champions. It's definitely an honor for Jerry and I to have you on, and we've appreciated your career, watching you play, watching you commentate, and then what you've also done in the background these last couple of years in youth sports. So the opportunity for us to have a conversation with you is really great. So thanks so much for carving out some time today.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and I think we have a lot of very similar views and some similar passions and interests. So I'm looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, I want to just get started and just kind of go back to the beginning about your youth sport journey and why you sport so important to you. And obviously, it was a journey that led to the NFL and a very long career and all that. But talk about like what was the role of sports in your life growing up?
Yeah, so for the longest time, sports it really was my life. I grew up in a household of all boys. I had a brother that was just a year older than me. I have a brother that's 10 years younger than me. So we grew up, me and my older brother, we played on every team together. Our dad was the local high school football coach at the public school in our hometown in New Jersey. So I grew up in locker rooms, going on bus trips. I was anything from the water boy to the kid who had to go run errands for the high school seniors to one day, wanting to be the ball boy. That was like that was a big upgrade from the water boy to ball boy was a big thing when you're a kid. And, my dream growing up was one day to just play for my dad and play for my high school team. And the athletes that we idolized were his high school captains, his senior captains. They were the kids that we looked up to and said, I want to be like them. They were household stars in our house, but no one really knew them outside of our town. And that was just how we grew up. And for the longest time, sports was what we did. It was for a lot of ways, probably early on, it was who we were. I think over time, we learned a little bit more about the balance of what it means to do something versus be something. And, I was very fortunate that sports has kind of provided me my entire life. It gave me the opportunity to go to University of Miami on a scholarship. I met my wife there, both graduated there, and then obviously took me into a professional career and now post-professional career where I still live every single day with now three young kids, coaching their teams at ball fields, in basketball gyms, at track meets, just trying to navigate this world now as a dad, taking a lot of the lessons that I had from a young kid and beyond, and now trying to turn my hat around and take some of those lessons, the good and the bad, and apply them as a dad. And sometimes I get them right, and sometimes I get them wrong. But yeah, sports is really for as long as I can remember, it has just been the kind of a centerpiece of me and my family's entire life.
Mm. The three of us were coached by our dads and have coached our own kids. Talk about like that role. How did you feel like your dad as a coach? How did he coach you? Because this is a challenge, and I think you might know the statistic better than me, but there's a huge percentage of kids who are coached by their own parent at one time in youth sports, and wearing the coach hat and the dad hat and learning when to take one off and on is a pretty important thing. I mean, it can ruin a relationship or it can be the best thing ever for a relationship. Dude, what are your thoughts about that, and what are your recollections?
Obviously, I look back on it, very grateful. So many of the lessons that I was able to carry forward with me, both in good times and in bad, and whether that was transitioning to college, where you start as the low man on the totem pole, and just the value of hard work and grit and perseverance. And my dad's the first to admit, my dad now coaches middle school football with me here in Charlotte. I have a seventh grade son, and my dad's been coaching with me for the last 3 years of the kids' football. And, he'd be the first one to say, I've been very public, like he was the old school, traditional, stereotypical high school football coach. It
Mhm.
was discipline. It was hard work. It was nothing's ever good enough. We can always be better, individually, team, collective. We won a lot of games. We won a lot of state championships. He's one of the most successful guys. And it wasn't for everybody. His style was not for every parent. It was not for every athlete. It was not for every individual. Every teacher in the school didn't love it. It was a very driven, excellence is the only thing that's accepted. And I think being exposed to that early on, that never scared me. That was never intimidating to me. I was never scared to do the work. I was never scared of expectations. It never worried me that when we walked into a basketball gym, people had been hearing my dad's name for 20 years saying, all right, now his kids are coming up through. Let's see what these kids are all about. Like, we kind of wore that like a badge of honor. And I know that's not for everybody. I know that mentality and that and atmosphere is maybe not healthy for everyone. It's maybe not a great fit for everyone, but for me it was. And I cherished it. I loved it. And some of the things that my dad taught us, his saying that he told every single class for 35 years that he coached there was, no one said it's going to be easy, but I promise it'll be worth it. And like that whole mindset of like the struggle is the way, the obstacle is the way, that the hard times are the path. Like, that's real. And I think in today's world, now raising kids in a very different landscape, there's still an element to that we try to keep in our programs and our teams that we coach, while also understanding it is a little bit of a different time. And kids are accustomed to a little bit different ways of parenting and teaching and coaching that you have to be mindful of. So it's a balance, but I would not have achieved what I achieved if I was not exposed early on to not only just great coaching and learning the game of football and learning techniques and all that, but just the idea of work, the idea of hard, the idea of working, like all of that, what I was exposed to, what my brothers were exposed to, is a big reason why that I've been able to, kind of do what I've been able to do throughout my career, both on and off the field, is the things that my dad taught me from day one when I was 5 years old, watching him coach, back in the early 90s. And I just one day dreamed that one day was going to be me.
Yeah. I think I know I want to bring Jerry in here in a sec.
Well, no,
Because that
we
that
could he could drop the mic right now.
yeah,
This is it.
yeah. Well, I love that quote. No one said it's going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. Um, this idea that, the as someone else might say, the juice is worth the squeeze. It's not for everyone. You know what? The NFL is not for everyone either. I mean, it's like, there's this massive misconception, I think, around, excuse me. Well, if parents want it enough, this kid's gonna make it, right? And they want it more than their kid. But, every parent that I talk to whose kids have made it as a professional soccer player or basketball player or football player and interest and whatever sport, the first thing they'll say when asked to describe their kid's journey is, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. It's really hard, and you're going to give up a lot of things in order to achieve this dream. And it's not for every kid. And it's not for every kid in just in your family or whatever either, right? You have three kids, and one of them might want it enough and one of them might not. So this comes back around to your dad coaching a certain way that's not for everyone. And maybe, yes, now we've evolved, and I want to hear in a bit how you coach and how he coaches with you today. My guess is he coached that way with a lot of love in his coaching, right? A lot of love, a lot of deep care.
Yeah, so I'll give you the best example, right? So I think it's one of those things that, especially when you're 16, 17, 18 years old and you're in the midst of it, you might not have the level of appreciation that you did when you look back now in hindsight as a college athlete or as a college just student in general, or later on in your life. Very similar to maybe how people view their parents, right? Like, in the midst of when you're in sixth, seventh, eighth grade, high school, and your parents are on you about all these little things, in the moment, we all look at it as, why are they always on my back? Why they don't give me any freedom? And then you have the ability to one day look back as a parent yourself, or you look back and you go, okay, like, I have so much more of an appreciation for those early lessons. So I think a lot of it is a similar situation. So the best example I could give, the best tradition we had at my dad's high school, is for 30 years, the night before Thanksgiving, he had what he called the father-son beefsteak, where and we had an event for the moms and the mother figures as well. So we're not ignoring the moms here, but this event was strictly for the men, and it was strictly for the parents, uncle, grandpa, neighbor, whoever that father figure was in every one of the kids' lives. So 9th through 12th graders, we'd have a practice getting ready in the state playoffs. And then we would come up to the school, and every current player on the team and their father or father figure and every former alumni So they could have been guys that my dad, so I graduated in 2003. These could have been guys that were from the late 80s that played for my dad that are now fathers of their own, older. They're bringing back their fathers and their children. There's multiple generations of guys who played for my dad at the time, 20, 25 years earlier. And there's hundreds of men in this cafeteria at our little public high school in Wayne, New Jersey, the night before Thanksgiving, sharing in what was an annual tradition called the father-son beefsteak, which was like a dinner and whatever. And the tradition was they started from most current alumni all the way back to the oldest alumni that were at the building, and all of them had a chance to stand up and address the current 9th through 12th graders about their lives, their experiences, what they look back on the program, what they look back on fondly, the memories they had, and just share a little perspective about, hey, I know you're in the midst of it. You're 15 years old, you're 16 years old, and coach is wearing you out, and you don't know if you want to come back next year because you might want to go play a different sport. And here's these guys now that in a lot of ways are 10, 15 years down the road saying, it's the best thing that I ever did. I never found anyone who loved me more, who pushed me more, who told me I was capable of doing things at the time I never thought were even realistic. And now I look back at the family I had, the education I got. Maybe I played in college. Maybe now I'm a Secret Service agent. Maybe now I own my own business. Maybe now I'm a doctor, whatever it is. And so many of the lessons that I've now brought forward with me were the lessons that I learned in those 4 years as a high school football player, whether I was a good player or not. And I think those are the stories that talk about like lasting impact and the ability to make a mark on young kids' lives well beyond teaching them how to run, block, or tackle. And I think that overall approach has been now how I've tried to bring it to my own kids' teams and my own, the families that we're responsible for coaching and various different sports that we do with our three kids. And it's like, hey, I can teach you how to shoot. I can teach you how to field a forehand. I can teach you how to tackle. I always say the sports is the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
In youth, and especially at the youth level, how much you know about the sport is probably the least important part of the entire equation, because you could be a master at the sport, but if you can't lead, if you can't communicate, if you can't instruct, if you can't inspire and motivate and do all the things that come with youth coaching, I don't care how much you know about football, basketball, girls basketball, boys, whatever it is. You're not going to reach these kids. You're not going to impact them. And the odds of any of these kids making a living in sports is so astronomically thin. You've better be giving them lessons well beyond the skill of the sport that they can carry forward with them into high school, into college, into adulthood. Because if you're not, there's going to be nothing left, because the chance of them taking your jump shot technique to the NBA is probably close to zero.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, that's
Yeah,
it. Jerry, go,
that's it
because
in a nutshell right there. Drop
my
the mic right now because there's nothing
yeah.
I can say that would take over that. I have a lot of reflection and a lot of thoughts and responses and observations with this. I think the world of sport, uh, correct me if you think this is really way out there. I think youth sport in particular, it tends to be, it's trending toward being, if not already, um, volatile, uncertain, um, complex, ambiguous, and it has a lot of fear involved in it. And the kids are afraid. The parents are afraid that kid's not going to get the next train to Stanford. The coaches are afraid they're not going to win enough games. The kids are afraid they're going to let their family down. The kids are afraid that they're going to strike out or they're not going to do well on the scoreboard. But the bottom line to the whole thing is that what an opportunity we have to look and examine this and say, you know what we're really looking for and what we really crave is connection and caring and love. And that that's the thing that will not change. Youth sports will go on. There'll be different generations, Generation X, Z, Y, P, T, all these other generations. 20 years down the road, everything will change. But there's one thing that's not going to change. Kids are going to crave these things. Parents want it, coaches want it, athletes want it. We all want to be connected. We all want to be cared for. We all want to be loved. And it brings up to me, Greg. We had a conversation with Steve Kerr last year. I remember this conversation so well. And I said to him, your first year in winning the world championship as a coach, the very first year you were coaching, you won it. What was the most important game? So I was looking at the outcomes and results. What was the most important game you won? And he said to me, Jerry, he said clearly, without a doubt, 100%, it was the relationship game. That was it. I mean, he would fly to Australia to see Andrew Bogut, right? Just to meet his family and say, you mean a lot to me. I believe in you. I care about you. Or go to Atlanta and be with Andre Iguodala. I care about you. You're important to me. I value you. And so that's my observation based on what you just said. And I'm just sort of like adding some more fuel to that fire and wondering what you think about that, the relationship game thing.
Yeah, and it helped having Steph Curry. But
Yeah.
that part helped too. No, I think he's 100% right. I think, listen, if you don't have talent, you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
You could run the greatest program in the world. You can connect. You can be a great leader and a great communicator. But in today's day and age, obviously at that level that Steve is working at, it goes without saying. But even at the younger levels, like, you are not going to win if you don't have good players. Like, that is just a fact. But you're also not going to automatically win because you have good players, right? So I think, and we always like to say, like, winning is a byproduct. Winning is a byproduct of every single thing we do. It's from how we practice. It's from how we interact with each other. It's from how we hold each other accountable. It's how we hold ourselves accountable. It's the development of the athlete. It's the development of the skill set. Listen, let's be honest. It's also the ability to attract really good people, right? High achievers love to be around high achievers, and mediocre people love to be around mediocre people. And they usually don't get along well with the other kind because they don't understand the mindset of each other, right? So when you create and foster, again, Steve Kerr, it's how they were able to get Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant wanted to go be a part of that culture. He wanted to be a part of that team. Kevin Durant wasn't going to join them if they weren't ready to win, had the environment he wanted, the locker room and the leadership. He's not going to join that team down the road, as that dynasty with Kerr and Steph and all those guys got going. So it's kind of the same idea. So great cultures are going to harvest and they're going to develop the people within them, right? And in our case, it's young kids, it's young athletes, whatnot. We're going to get the most out of all of them. And every one of them is going to have a different ceiling. Not every kid's going to be the starting shortstop. Not every kid's going to be the star player. And that's okay. But it's our job to foster an environment where we can have them achieve things that maybe they didn't even think they could achieve. Maybe their parents, in the beginning on a lot of our teams, the parents think we're crazy. We're going out there and running football practice. And we're asking these, at this point, they're like rising, they're current 6th and 7th graders rising 7th and 8th for next fall. And we started our spring and summer workouts and we're at 6:45 in the morning. And we got 56th and 7th graders in the gym at school before school starts, doing weight training and doing running and doing plyometrics. And we always say, and the parents said, wow, is it too young? And I say, guys, this has nothing to do with them being weightlifters. This has nothing to do with them being football players. When it's time and we start at 6:45 and that whistle blows, were they up? Did they have breakfast? Did they have? And almost across the board, our feedback we get from the parents, until these workouts start, I used to have to drag my kids out of bed. I used to have to pack their bag for them. They never had their shoes on. They never remembered their school binder. Now, they were so not afraid. That's not the right word, but they were so eager to be on time out of maybe a little fear of, like, you don't want to be the kid walking in late. We talk about accountability. We talk about the team. Don't let each other down. Like, those are the lessons. It's not about the bench press. It's not about how high you jump. It's about creating an environment that brings out the best in everyone, starting with themselves. And when you do that over and over and over, it's amazing how those teams end up winning a lot. And we're not chasing wins and sacrificing our souls. We're chasing doing every single thing we do at a high level. And as a result, we're going to win. Yeah. That's just the way I've seen it work the best.
Yeah.
Let me just jump in here a second. Greg, what you're doing is really subtle for a lot of people that are listening. You're actually teaching the parents what you're teaching the kids. So you're bringing the parents on board. This is important. So many programs don't do this. Parents don't understand why it's 6:45 in the morning. Your parents that you interact with are learning that this is building character. This is building tenacity, grit, fearlessness, connection, caring. This is building a love for each other as young men, as young boys. And I want to point out that the important thing that you're doing is you're pointing that out to the parents when a lot of listeners here, coaches and parents, never hear that. So I think it's really important that that's known that's part of the program is bring the parents in, bring them on board, educate them as to what the 6:45 meeting is really all about, you know?
Absolutely. And we all know this, right? We see it in our own lives. And so now you got to imagine you got to get into the head of a 12-year-old, a 15-year-old, whatever age you're coaching with the young kids is when you leave voids, when you don't communicate and you don't say, here are our intentions. You might not like our plan. You might not like the schedule. You might not think my decisions as the coach are good or not. That's everyone has their right to make their own judgments. But no one's ever going to say, we didn't know. It was unclear. We didn't know our role. We didn't know where we stood. We didn't know where we were falling short or excelling. You're going to know. And I think when you don't communicate and when you don't give clarity to the parents, especially, but even to the young kids, they fill those voids with their own assumptions. Coach doesn't like me. He doesn't. And they're going to fill it most of the time with things that are not accurate. Right.
Stories.
So we are going to over communicate our intentions to the kids. We are over communicating our intentions to the parents. At the end of baseball practice, when everyone usually takes their team in the left field after a game, good game, bad game, and then you got to get into the car and say, hey, Johnny, what was coach's message to you? Now you're relying on a 12-year-old. Again, I always say that because my kids are like 12 and 13, but you're relying on
You're
any
right.
age kid to communicate 15 minutes later to his parents what the coach said. Good, bad, we need to do this better. We need to do this. This was amazing. This was not, whatever it was. And like you're getting it all secondhand. And now you're relying on this young kid making sure his parent understands the message. So you know what I do? We do it right behind the dugout.
Mhm.
And I want every parent there. I want every kid there. We're sitting there. I don't care if other teams walk by and hear us. We're not giving out nuclear codes here. And you are going to hear every single thing we did well. You are going to hear everything that we did not do well. You are going to hear what next week our intentions at practice because we need to be better at X, Y, and Z. I'm really happy in the growth and development of X, Y, and Z. I don't love, and we are going to be very clear. When you get in your car with your kid, you're not going to have to ask him what the coach's message was. You're not going to have to ask the coach, hey, I wonder where we need to get better. I wonder where we've gotten better, whatever it is, because you heard it. You heard me say it. What I said to your kid, I say to you. I say it out loud to everyone. There's no secrets. And I think that process over time is why people buy in. And again, it's not for everyone, but the families that get it, and after a while they go, okay, I understand the method to the madness here. Like we're all in. When you see those kids, guys, those kids go like this.
Yeah.
They shoot, the light goes on and they shoot to the moon and they're their best versions of themselves because when they buy in and the parents buy in and there's clear alignment, those kids typically are going to maximize their potential.
Yeah. And when as a coach, like no matter what you do, if everything that you're saying or doing or communicating, you're getting your legs cut out from under you in the car ride or at home because the parents don't know, right? It doesn't matter what you say, right? Because those are the most influential people in their lives. And I think so many coaches make this mistake. Now, I'm not saying the parents need to be in the high school locker room, but certainly on the youth level, like, right? Like we're inviting the parents in so that they are crystal clear of what are their expectations, what are the demands, and really what we're teaching and what you're talking about is we're teaching behavior because the right behaviors repeated over time, not for days, not for weeks, but for months and for years, is going to allow you to be the best athlete possible. And I want that messaging to the kids to also go to the parents so they can reinforce it. Now, if the parent is confused, right? hey, coach, I'm just not quite sure what you're asking of my son. Great. Let's have that conversation as well. And this is it. And I think too many coaches, and I think it's shifting, but too many coaches treat it like, no, this is me and your kid, and you're completely out of the loop with your 10-year-old. But if they were failing math and the math teacher said you don't get any feedback on how to help your kid in math, he's just going to fail. That wouldn't be okay. So why do we think it's okay in
Absolutely.
baseball or football?
Oh,
Yeah.
I use that line all the time. I say we wouldn't do this if it was Matt. It's funny
Yeah.
because you said that. And I was like, oh my God. I
Yeah.
usually say it because like I preach like vertical alignment.
Yeah.
Fourth grade math serves five, fifth grade math. We
Yeah.
divide kids up by their abilities. We don't put poor math students with good math. We do it all appropriate to their development. So I would say, like, why don't we do that in sports? Like, why is that not the model in sports? We wouldn't do it in math.
Yeah.
So you took the
Yeah.
words right out of my mouth. Yeah, again, these are just my personal beliefs. There's always exceptions to these rules, but my general approach to all of that is if you're scared to let the families in, if you're scared to let people come watch you practice, and again, I'm not talking about you're the varsity football coach. Do we
Right.
need 50 dads standing at every practice?
No.
It doesn't bother me, but I
Right.
understand why people do it.
Yeah.
I want the families to come to our practice. Our greatest sales pitch, our greatest ability to get you to buy into what we're asking out of your son or daughter
Yeah.
is to come watch practice, is to come watch us communicate, is to watch our organization, is to watch our drills, is to watch our progressions of our intention. Like, I want everyone, I want the other team's parents to come watch us practice and walk away and go, I want my kid to do that. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I look at this. There's no secrets here.
Yeah.
Right. We're not doing anything revolutionary that we need to like put behind lock and key. So again, so this might be a little controversial and somebody out there might not like it, and that's okay because to each their own. But I have always found that the people that don't want people watching them practice and want everything in secret and don't want their communication with the kids heard, don't want their are people that are just insecure about how good they are.
Mhm.
I think if you are really confident in what you do, that doesn't mean everyone's going to like it. And it doesn't mean that it's for everybody. We started to talk about that. But if you are really true into what you believe and you are all in, that if you stick with me through this whole process, it's not all going to be good, but it will be good at the end.
Mhm.
I don't care who comes to watch practice. I don't
Right.
care who listens to my talks after the games, before games, sit in on it, film it. I don't care. Like, it's not going to all be pretty. It's not going to all be perfect. But I'll tell you what, over time, if you see it all and you don't just take isolated pieces, but you take in the entire journey, you're going to look back and go, was it perfect? No. But man, was it effective? Did my kid really get developed and really get loved and really got invested in and brought out the best of them on and off the court field? If the answer to that is yes, then it was successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'm I've got so many thoughts going on in my head that they're crossing paths with each other and tends to confuse me. Uh, I keep hearing this expression, John saying it, Greg, you're saying it. It's not for everybody. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I think it is for everybody. I really do. I really think there's a lot of people that we're saying, it's not for you. It's not for them because they're afraid. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of opening up to what's really good for them. They crave what you're giving, what you're saying, Greg. I believe even those who you say it's not for everybody, I think they crave it. They're just not educated. They're not educated enough in your process, in what you're saying. And it's not you, Greg Olsen's process. It's the universal process of goodness, of what makes sense. It's the universal process of life. You're teaching life. Life means we come together, parents, kids, coaches, grandfathers, grandmothers, cousins, everybody. We come together and we walk through this life together. And we all want that. And we all crave connection. We all crave caring and love. We want to be empowered. And that's what your program is. That's what your message is to me. Who wouldn't want that? People that don't know about it. And I think this whole process that we're talking about requires massive education. I've been doing this for 45, 50 years. My job is to educate the public. I want to educate them to know that this is what they really want, but they don't know it yet.
Yeah, and I think the key to a lot of this, I think you're right. I think the key to a lot of this is getting people to understand this is actually in your best interest and you're actually capable of
That's right.
doing way more. And I always think the parents are the ones who put the limits on the kids. I
Yeah.
know I'm guilty of it as a parent slash coach at different times as well. So I'm putting myself into that same bucket. I think the greatest limiting factor on young kids in sports specifically are the parents. It's safer. Are they ready for that? That didn't look so great at practice the first day. Oh, that might be a little bit too advanced. And then all of a sudden down the road, you look back and you say, wow, like look at what we're all able to accomplish. Like we couldn't get this kid in a stance. And a month later, we can do all these different things. Like
Mhm.
it's a process, it's a grind, it's hard. I'm not gonna let you get away with it. It's not okay. Like we have a series, like, not everything's okay.
Hmm.
Like we can't every time something to, oh hey, it's okay. Like it's not okay. Like it's not okay. It's okay to drop a pass. It's okay to drop a fly ball. It's okay. Skill mistakes, especially for the young kids, are inevitable. It's just a matter of how many do you make. Effort mistakes, attitude mistakes, not doing what you're coached to do, not doing your assignment, selfishness. That's not okay. Like it's not okay on our teams, is what maybe on
Yeah.
other teams, but on our teams, it's not okay. And then the other key piece that I think is still a journey for all of us who enter this parenting coaching world, there is an element of if we ask the kids to be accountable and we ask the kids to be accountable to themselves and to accountable to each other, and that's from being on time, that's from how they go to school, that's how they talk to each other, mistakes, whatever. There's got to be times where we as coaches are willing to say to the kids and the parents, we didn't handle that right. And it could be I called the stupid play. It could be I should have called a curveball instead of a strike. I told you to go home and you got thrown out. That's on me. Like we have to be able to stand there, put our hand up in the middle of the field and say, hey, Johnny, that's on me. And
Hmm.
have everybody hear it. And then there's the next level to it where we might not handle every post game conversation the right way.
Hmm.
The emotions of the game, a tough loss, we might not handle every interaction the right way with every parent. We might not handle the team huddle at the end. We might not, maybe the messaging you look back on a day later and you go, probably wasn't the time. Was what I said wrong? Did I handle it right? Like the ability to reflect has to be a constant thing. Like you got to be a better coach a year from now in your messaging and your emotions and your demeanor and your practice organization and whatever it is. Everything needs to be better a year from now than it was today, and so on and so forth. So, because if we ask the kids to grow, and that comes from recognizing their shortcomings and growth mindset and development and self-awareness and all these things, we've got to do it ourselves too, right? So there's a lot of times where a day later or after the game, we're going to stand there and I'm say, hey, before we get into anything that the kids did wrong, we failed you as coaches. We didn't prepare you for that defense. We didn't prepare you for zone. We only worked on man. I called the bad play. Hey, my halftime conversation, I focused on the wrong things, whatever it was. And then we'll get into where the kids need to be better. Like, I think coaches need to be able to do that. And it's not easy. And you're emotional and you're vested and you want the kids to do well and you live and die with everything that they do. But if we want the parents to trust you and the kids to trust you, they have to know that you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to make every perfect call and you're not going to be the perfect role model at all times. But you have to have some self-awareness to recognize and let the kids know it's not always them. It's
Yeah.
also possible that we're the reason we lost and we're the reason that play went bad and we're the reason that the season hasn't gone the way we wanted. Like there has to be some ownership, I think, from the adults as well. And when you start doing that, I think the kids let their guard down
Hmm.
and they say, okay, he's not just telling me I'm wrong, but he's telling himself. And they start to just buy in and trust you a little bit more,
Hmm.
especially the older kids, like the middle school to high school kids that have a little bit more self-awareness and a little more situational awareness. They respond to all of that pretty well.
Hmm. When you say that, I'm thinking of the the former Navy SEAL Jocko, and he talks that extreme ownership, right? And that when you own it as the leader, then your athletes or your people are going to own it as well, right? So if I say I screwed this up, I own this. What can you do better? And they versus if you just did this, well, then the blame trickles, right? So owning it there and that vulnerability, I think, as a leader is huge. And I'll just say, and I think you would agree with this, it's not just at the youth level. I mean, can you think of examples in an NFL locker room or whatever, like where a coach says, that one was on me. I screwed
Yeah.
that up because that makes you want to play for that coach. I mean, any thoughts, any stories on that? Any moments in your career, Miami, the NFL, where you see a locker room come together because the leadership of that locker room, the coaches say that was on us. We didn't prepare you for that. We'll be better.
Oh yeah, the best teams that I've ever been on, right? So the best team that I was ever on was our 2015 Panther team. We ended up losing the Super Bowl. We lost to Denver in the Super Bowl. If we won that game, we have arguably one of the greatest seasons in NFL history. We would have been 18-1, and we lost one game. We started the season 14-0. We finished the regular season 15-1. Blew out the NFC, blew out the first round of the playoffs. Blew out the NFC Championship. We won the first round against Seattle, blew out the NFC Championship game against Arizona, made it to the Super Bowl, played poorly. Denver was good, and they beat us. When people look back on that team and they ask us all the time, and what was different, because we tried to recreate it again. We brought back almost the exact same locker room. We brought back the exact, give or take, the same coaches. Yeah. Anytime you have success, there's always attrition because everybody wants to steal elements of what you do, whether it's players, coaches, offenses, plays. People catch up to you, and it's kind of cyclical in that way. But when I look back on that, the best way I can describe that team is, we said earlier, you don't win if you don't have talent. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of talent. We had a lot of really good players, but we had a lot of really good players in years where we won 7 games. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of success in games where we lost in the first round of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that we weren't talented. So I think that the key, when you strip all of that off to that team, to your point, is we had a lot of guys that understood they were going to get theirs if they served the team first. Mm-hmm. There was accountability. There was selflessness. There was, hey, on this route, if I need to run 50 yards as fast as I can in the fourth quarter and I'm dog tired because I've got to get Ted Ginn open on a big dig, or I've got to get, whoever, I've got to get these guys open, and my part of the job is to take the top off the defense, and they're maybe double teaming me on the backside, or at some point it's going to flip. And now I'm going to need you to go full speed, Jericho Cotchery and Jonathan Stewart, because your play action fake is how I'm going to catch a 30-yard touchdown, and I'm going to be the hero. But I know, and we all know in this locker room, that yes, I caught it, but there was a lot of weight. There was a lot of factors that went into the success of any individual moment, right? And I think when I look around that locker room, the Jericho Cotcherys and the Ted Ginns and the Jonathan Stewarts and Cam Newton and Ryan Khalil, and on defense we have Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly, and we can go on and on and on. The two things they all had in common is those guys were all very talented, but their selflessness of saying, what can I do to make the other guys in this huddle on this field better? And then I have confidence knowing that it's going to come full circle. And it might not be today. It might not be this drive. It might not be this game. It might be next week. It might be in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. But all of this was going to come full circle. And the better we were, the days that Jonathan Stewart had great days running the ball, him and Cam, and maybe we threw for 130 yards, we weren't going to have big games. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden it was going to come full circle. And those days where it was tough sledding inside and they were all over Stu and Cam and nobody could run the ball, all of a sudden we throw for 270 and we're throwing the ball over everybody's head. And Ted's got a touchdown and Jericho's got 4 third-down conversions and I've got 80 yards and a touchdown, and everyone's happy again. So like that team, unlike any team that I ever had, understood that high tide raises all ships. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden at the end of the year, because everyone bought into this brand of ball that we were going to be committed to, we had 10 Pro Bowlers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if before the season we said, hey, this is a 10 Pro Bowl team, mm-hmm. but all of a sudden you win 15 games and you win the division and you go deep. It's amazing how all of a sudden you have all these Pro Bowl players. That exact roster goes 7-9. We probably have 4 Pro Bowl players. Not because those guys weren't good, because when you're on good teams, everybody's a lot better. So yeah, that was the best quality of that team, and it's hard to recreate.
Yeah, but it's such an important, Jerry, then I'll let you jump in, like to just that message right there, because like you said, the next year with almost the same team, it doesn't, because it's not about, it's just a small little bit, right? It's a couple of plays off of not running that deep route hard, not blocking behind the ball, whatever it is. I'm not a football player, but you know what I mean? Like I think about football and your position as well and all the receivers, like there's a lot of running that you're doing without the ball to create the space so that you hope someone's going to run for you when you're the one being thrown to, or you're the one being
Yeah.
handed off to. And I think that's it. And it doesn't take a lot of plays off, like you said, to go from 17-1 to 9-7 to 7-9, right? Just a
Yeah.
couple people going, I'm not getting thrown to enough, or they're not handing me the ball enough. I'm not going to do this one, right? And that's the
Over my
difference.
over my entire career, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but my entire career, say I averaged 4 catches a game,
Hmm.
5 catches a game, somewhere in there.
Hmm.
I played 70. There was 70 offensive snaps in all of those games.
Hmm.
If you only care about the plays that are directly impact or that only go right to you, you get the ball in your hand, you get the catch, you get the yards, you get the run, the touchdown. If you only care about your individual opportunities, you can't play.
Hmm.
I spent 90% of the game, and I was catching more passes than almost anybody at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And I'm getting, my best years, I'm maybe getting 4.5, 5 catches a game. Over my career, it's probably even less.
Yeah.
But I'm playing. So, like, if you can't find it where it's time to serve others and to buy into the concept of team ball and others, you just can't play. 90% of the game, you don't have the ball.
Yeah.
And that's just reality. And again, we it's something that's even harder at the young level because, like, at least for a lot of guys, it's like, you don't have to throw me the ball at all. I'm on the team. I'm getting paid. I have a role at the highest level. Everyone's just trying to carve out a role, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the young level, everybody wants to be the star. Everyone wants to be the quarterback. Everyone wants to be
Yeah.
the running back. How many times am I going to get the ball? It's hard to convince 12-year-olds you're going to be the left guard. You're going to be the defensive back. And you might go the whole season and never touch the ball. Like,
Hmm.
it is a hard thing, especially in today's world, the highlight-driven world that we live in. It is hard to get people to buy into the greater whole because everyone, just human instinct is, what's in it for me?
Hmm. Yeah. And that's the what we see there at the top in that highest level locker room is what we're trying to instill, I think, from the youngest ages. And I mean, we just had an example in the NFL draft with a talented player falling way down the draft, not because of necessarily what he would do on the field, but maybe what people were worried or concerned that he might bring off the field. And I think this happens in every sport. Um, and again, I know nothing about him or anything like that. I'm not even going there. What I am talking about is like, um, you have athletes whose talent takes them to a place that their character can no longer sustain, right? And we can talk about tons of examples in every single sport. And so that's where I look at that and go, how many coaches had an opportunity to impact that athlete and his or her character along the journey and didn't, right? Let them slide because they were bigger, faster, stronger, scored more points, scored more goals, had more touchdowns. So I'm not going to do my job. And I think that's the message that we have to get down to youth sport is that it's not your responsibility, like how they come into your locker room. You didn't build that, but it is your responsibility how they leave, right? And that have you moved them along on that? So just to, and any thoughts on that? Because I'm sure everyone
Yeah.
that I've ever met who's played sport at your level can talk about athletes who are more talented than them when they were growing up and didn't make it because usually of something like this.
Oh, well, I did not play 14 years in the NFL. I didn't play at the University of Miami because I was the best athlete. I
Hmm.
promise you that. It's just, I learned very early on in my journey. When I was in high school, different animal. It's a smaller pond, bigger fish,
Yeah.
a little bit easier to stand out. But I learned pretty early on at the University of Miami when I looked around the locker room and I went to my first workout in the weight room and I did my first summer conditioning test and I looked around. I was not going to just physically show up, walk onto the field and say, okay, I'm here. Nobody's better than me. Like that just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So are you willing to do things everyone else isn't willing to do to have outcomes that you want and to have opportunities that you strive? So the two philosophies along the course of what you're talking about that come to mind is, one, the better you are, the harder you got to be coached.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to coach the guy where there's 1,000 things to coach, right? Everything he does is wrong. He can't get in a stance. He doesn't run. There's a million both skill and just approach things. You could coach that guy all day until you're blue in the face. Now, it's a frustrating coaching existence. Like nobody wants to coach that guy, but there's plenty of things to coach. The good players, it's very easy to ignore the bad things, right? It's very easy to ignore he just ran for a 60-yard touchdown, but maybe he had the wrong arm up when he took the handoff in middle school football. Very common, right? Very easy mistake to make. When he comes back to the sideline, do you teach him? Maybe he slowed down 5 yards short of the end zone and he didn't get caught because he's the fastest kid on the field, but one day he's not going to be the fastest kid on the field. And he's going to get caught and he's going to fumble at the 2-yard line. We've seen it happen and he's going to cost his team the game. So can you as a coach the best players on your team? When you can coach the best players on your team and hold them to the highest levels, I can coach anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But your best players have to allow you to coach them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be open to your coaching. They can't say, but coach, nobody can tackle me. I hit a home run every time. I score 25 a game. Because the message that I have for them now is, yeah, right now you do. Right now, you are just far superior than everyone because you're 13, 14, 15. Those days are coming to an end. As you climb this ladder, it could be tomorrow. It could be in 5 years. The day is coming when you are not going to be physically superior to everybody on the team. Then what?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still a good player? If we waste all of these years not coaching you, not coaching the best players at the young age, one day when everything evens out, we're doing you a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
Because that kid that had 5 years of coaching while they were dominant and you were dominant without 5 years of coaching, in 5 years, that kid's going to be better than you.
Mm-hmm.
And kids that weren't as good as you, but now they've grown up, they've gotten bigger, they've hit puberty, they've gotten stronger, whatever the case may be, and they grinded for 5 years while they weren't as good as you, but they were chasing you, they're going to pass you by.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. It's not. There's one LeBron James.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone else is on this perpetual, how do I continue to improve indefinitely?
Yeah.
If you just get better the longest, you're gonna reach whatever that level of achievement you're capable of. You're gonna maximize yourself. And if that means you're a college athlete, a high school athlete, it doesn't matter. You're gonna reach your potential. So number one is you have to have your best players be coachable, be willing to coach them in front of everybody else, and they have to be open and open-minded to being corrected, even in the midst of having a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, you have to be able to coach your team. I always believe you have to coach your team harder when you're winning, harder when you're having success. The game that in the 5th inning, you're up by 12, it's more important in that game that you get on your outfielders about their prep and their angles and their cuts and their base running and their one-way leads, whatever the minor things that no one in the ballpark even knows.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're up by 10, I'm going to coach those things like we're down by 10. Because in the critical moments, in the really big games, when everything's on the line, I'm probably not going to hound you over those little details and clog your brain because there's too many other things going on to begin with, right? So like those are little lessons that I've learned from really great coaches and being around really good people, doing it wrong myself a million times as a player and as a coach, that now I try to say, okay, basic rule of thumbs, and these things tend to have pretty good outcomes. It just, again, you got to get people to buy in and understand why you're doing it. Do I need my kid to be hounded because he took a bad one-way lead. Come on, coach. It's the bottom of the fourth. He's hit 2 doubles and we're up by 8. Why do you care about his lead at first base?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't care, then I don't care. He's not my kid, but we all should care. We
Mm-hmm.
all should want this kid to be doing everything right, because there's going to be a day he's going to be 0 for 3. And then he's going to get a walk with the game on the line. And that lead at first base is what's going to get him to second.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to score the winning run. And he's going to be the hero. I don't know when it's coming, but it's coming. So we've got to coach it every single day. And that scares a lot of people. People don't like that.
Yeah. Jerry, I just have to say, I'm so sorry. I have a kid that I coached here. He played on my son's team, and I coached him in soccer. He's a baseball player now, and he's very, very good and probably a first round draft pick. And I went to his baseball game the other day, and there's 12 major league scouts at the game. And no one is looking for, what does he do when he rips a ball, in the gap for a double? They're like, you just grounded to second. Did you beat out the throw to first? Right? You're up 10 runs. Were you focused on this at bat? You're up 10 runs. How quickly did you react to that ball? That fly ball to center field. Like they're looking for all the things of not when it's going well, but when it's going poorly. How do you behave? How do you react? How do you treat your teammates? Do you make people around you better? That's the things they're looking for when their club says, we want to invest millions of dollars in you, right? Because
Exactly
everyone
right.
can be good on their good days. Sorry, Jerry, just had to throw that in that moment. Go ahead.
No, it's great. It's not easy having three-way conversations. We got three wonderful minds here coming together for the same reason, the same purpose. So I have 2 points. I've saved them up here. One, Greg, is you talk about being open to your coaching. That's so important. That's such an important piece. To which I add, going back to Steve's comment, what's the most important game he won? And that was the relationship game. I think we have to focus on the listeners here, not me. And that is, if I'm listening to this conversation, I want to ask the question, well, how do I get my youth? How do I get these athletes to listen to me, to get on board? And what precedes that is, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, is establishing a very good, solid relationship with the athletes. It's just a point I want to make to help coaches think in those terms. So that's an important piece. Put time into the development of the team, but put time into the development of yourself in terms of that. The other point I wanted to ask you about, and I know you have some input on this, is you talk about service and selflessness. So glad you brought that up. So important. My whole purpose in my life is to serve. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm still working at my age. I mean, I just want to keep giving. And that's a kind of behavior. That's a kind of trait that I've developed over time. But these young kids, they don't have a lot of time being young, and we want to teach them this right away. So as a coach yourself, knowing the importance of this, what what could you suggest perhaps to the young coaches out there right now that they could do in their culture, in their environment that would help to develop a culture of selflessness, a culture of service, so that they can learn these, what I consider skills?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, there's a lot to dive into there, and I think it's all great points. I think to your first point is spot on. I think the idea of, you know, I can't coach you until you trust me, right? I'm not going to especially if it's a new relationship, right? It's the first time you've ever been on my team. You know, it takes a little while for these kids to understand who really cares about them for their own, and like who cares about them, the individual, and who only cares about what they can bring to the team, right? So I think those are two very different things. Are you coaching that kid because he brings value to that team, or are you trying to coach that kid because you want them to bring out the best in themselves, which is also then indirectly going to come back to the success of the team? So that you can't miss that middle point, right? So I think that's a key point. In order for me to coach you, you have to know that I have your best interest at heart. You have to know that when I'm on you, the more I'm on you, the more I believe in you. And that's hard for these young kids to wrap their
Yeah.
mind around. I think
Yeah.
young kids think hard coaching is personal.
Yeah.
It comes across as critical and he doesn't like me. Everything I
Yeah.
do is wrong. And we say,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you know, when we don't like you, when we stop coaching you. When
Yeah.
I stop
Yeah.
coaching you, I've given up. I've given up. I can't do
Yeah.
it. I can't break through. I'm going to move on to somebody else. So I think that's the key point. And then I think there at the last point, I think every team is different. I think every individual is different. I mean, I'm a dad of 3 kids and the way, and I'm still trying to work on the best way to connect and break through on my 3 children because they all have very different personalities. They all have very different, aspirations and fears and hesitations and one kid you can jump on and it might motivate them and the other kid you jump on and it might crush them. And one might need positive affirmation. And it could change by the day. So I don't pretend to have all the answers for every single situation. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of them for my own kids and my own teams to begin with. But about the selflessness component, I think there are a couple easy things that coaches can do, and that's celebrate the things that nobody sees, right? So everyone gives a game ball for the home run, the pitcher, the kid, that's easy, right? We always give all these accolades and we always point out in the post-game meetings, the MVP player, the who's the biggest, fastest, strongest, who pitches the hardest, who hits the ball the furthest. I think that's easy. And I'm not saying those kids shouldn't be celebrated. We should not look down upon success. We should not look down upon high achievement. I think we should promote it. But at the end of the game, find that one moment in the game that maybe nobody else saw. And whether that was the really good hustle play to back up a bad throw, and instead of it leading to the batter getting to second base, the catcher ran down first baseline and he backed up the bad throw from the third baseman and no harm, no foul, guy stayed at first. Or the kid in the game who their kid broke a long touchdown run and he took off full speed. Maybe he didn't catch him, but man, he gave great effort and highlight that. Show those plays in meetings. Highlight those plays after the game. Recognize them in front of everyone. Show everyone that you don't have to just be the star. You don't have to just be the best player to be valued, to have value on our team, to be recognized by our team. Like there's so many things that go on throughout the course of any sport, of any game, of any practice, that to most people sitting in the stands, they all follow the ball. They all follow the marquee positions. They're not seeing what's going on behind the scenes. And I think the more that the kids say, I can be recognized even if I'm not the best player. I can be recognized even if I'm not the star point guard. All of a sudden now everyone's going to start saying, I want to be called out in meeting for my effort. I want to be shown the highlight of me chasing a kid down or being the first one to pick a teammate up, or I'm the first one to grab the hat and the glove when the kid strikes out and I bring him his hat and his glove because he's got to go play center field. Like, show those things, highlight those things, because not everyone's going to get the home run ball. Not everyone's going to be the star pitcher. It's just not going to happen. But there's a lot of other ways to make a kid feel valued and make their attitude, their actions, their effort, celebrate that. And I think that the people around you, the kids and the parents as an extension, will buy into it. And maybe you start having a little bit more breakthrough into what you're trying to preach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. I love it. And I was working with a coach, and I learned something from this coach. It was really valuable. And he said to me, Jerry, he said, what we do in practice each week is we ask the team each day they come to practice, what's one thing that you're going to do that simply is to give to your team specifically, concretely, like, oh, coach, I'm going to pick up the cones after practice. Or I'm going to pick up all the bats, or I'm going to clean off the bases, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. So everyone has the conscious idea to make the effort to give to the team, so it becomes part of the culture. So the culture becomes, I thought it was brilliant. It's very simple, and you're teaching content, not in terms of X's and O's, but content in terms of life skills. And anyway, you say it so well too, and I love it. It's great.
Yeah. There was we worked with we did on the podcast years ago. We had this high school basketball coach. I think his name was Greg Garrison, and he would have, when he gave out a game ball, that player also had to pick out, they called it the Sherpa. So who's the unsung hero? So we recognized maybe the guy who scored 25 points, but then he or she had to recognize the person who did all the dirty work that didn't show up on the scoreboard as well. So, yeah, I love those ideas that reward what you value, and then you start to see the things that you value the behaviors that you value be repeated over and over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was Coach
Yeah.
Dean Smith at Carolina who came up with pointing the finger. We have that expression, well, stop pointing the finger at everybody else. And he came up with the idea, well, let's point the finger. Every time someone makes a good assist or a good pass or dives for the 50-50 ball, point the finger at that guy, and
Yep.
give attention to these things, the little things which really create the big things, don't they?
Yeah. And you don't have to force it. I don't think it maybe has to be every game. I don't think it has to be every moment, right? I also don't believe in like false enthusiasm. And like I always say, like, we're not here for the fake rah-rah. We're not going to just highlight things that have no value. Because remember, if everything's okay, nothing's okay. If everything's good, then nothing is good. Like everything can't be good. Everything can't be right. Because then when I tell you, hey, really, hey, good job.
Yeah.
I must have done a really good job. It's not what coach tells everybody they do a good job. It doesn't, there's no value in it, right? So you got to make sure that in all of this, like anything else, there has to be a balance. If everything's bad, then everything's bad.
Mm-hmm.
If everything's good, then nothing really has any value. Nothing is good because everything is impossible to be good. You don't do it. So you need to call bad, bad, and you need to call good, good. And whether that's effort, performance, attitude, skill, whatever it is, they all fit. Because that way, when I tell you things are good, things were good.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, hey, we got to be better.
Do you mean you don't approve of a team going 0-10 and everybody getting a trophy?
I don't. And here's my take on, I know winning and losing is a hot button topic right now. Hot button topic. Yeah, I thought I messed that up.
We got it.
So here's my take on the whole participation trophy and winning and losing. As we said earlier, I've said this to every team I've ever coached, from fifth grade girls interfaith basketball, which was very beginner, very rec, very early organization introduction, to more like seventh and eighth grade football at a private school. We got some real kids. Like, it's not high school, but it's not far from high school football. Like we can do it pretty full time and get after them and play real football. So, and then obviously at the higher levels as a player and whatnot. But like we always say, winning is a byproduct of everything that we do. If we're winning, it's probably a good indication that we're doing a lot of things right. It doesn't mean we're doing everything right. If we're losing, it's not just we need better plays, we need better players. We got to get back to the core philosophy of what do we believe in? How do we practice? How do we hold accountability? How do we communicate? Because typically something there downstream is broken down. Mm-hmm. So everyone gets into this, well, does winning matter? And I would argue if your team is winning and there's no development, there's no culture, there's no community, but you have just collected really good players, you can win at the youth level. It's going on in every city in America, these super teams, especially in the baseball, volleyball, basketball. It's not so much in football because there is a team kind of element to playing the game as a group. But in these other sports, it's become collect the best players and then you go out and win. I would argue there the winning is meaningless. There is zero value in that winning. You are not connecting hard work to outcome. You're not connecting process to outcome. You are not connecting the dots that are going to lead to any long-term growth other than experiencing winning, which in our bones, everybody enjoys. Then there's the flip side of it. There's the team that you do practice really well. You do communicate really well. You're organized. You do good skill development. You do good character growth and all that. And you never win. I would argue that's not good either, because I'm a big believer that we have to connect, especially for young kids, the connection between process. And I'm asking you every day to show up on time. And I'm asking you every day to come to practice. And I'm asking you to do X, Y, and Z. I then on the weekends, we've got to reward it. We've got to reward them, right? We got to give them the treat. The treat is on-field success, individually and collectively as a whole, because that's what keeps me coming back for more. I see, okay, I started here. I went through all of this and now I'm here and here. And I'm growing the ladder. I'm willing to continue to give you my trust to develop me. It's hard to do that if you don't win. You are just not going to keep people's interest. I don't care how good of a coach you are, you're going to lose. Your message is going to fade away if you don't show some sort of outcome. So everything needs to be based on we are winning as a byproduct. We are going to do all of our processes in line to develop young athletes on and off the field. We are going to develop character. We're going to develop work ethic. We're going to develop skill. We're going to develop competitive spirit. All of those things are going to be hammered. And then we've got to have the outcome that comes along with it. So that to me is the balance that has to happen. That doesn't mean you're going to win every game. Chances are in today's world, that approach, you're not going to win every game because you're going to run into teams that are doing it the other way and they're just going to be flat out better than you. And there's nothing you can do. But over time, that model will win out. It's just really hard in this day and age to convince people to buy into the long-term vision. The ones that do are going to pay dividends at the end. And the ones that don't, some of those kids will still end up being really, really good because they're just going to always be better than everybody else. But I do think there's the ability for young kids to grind and to have grit and to have toughness and deal with adversity. And I'm not always surrounded by the best kids in town. I'm not always on the team that walks into every tournament and we win every game by 100. Like, what good does that do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Greg, I know you have a hard stop here in just a bit because I believe you're going to coach. So, always. So I think that's awesome. But I don't. I just want to kind of ask one last thing, and then also give you the thing. And I know Jerry had a question because you guys share something very important about your own kids. You were a two-time finalist for Walter Payton Man of the Year. With your son TJ, but Jerry asked it because Jerry went through something very similar with his own son. So this is very, I think, near and dear to both of your hearts.
Yeah, well, that was very touching to me. Your son TJ, born with a congenital heart defect, and I believe he's had a transplant. Is that correct?
Yep.
Well, the real important question. Well, I have a son too. He was born. He was given 2 years to live. He had uh, tricuspid, single ventricle, that
Yeah,
kind of stuff. And he's had
of course.
three surgeries, two open heart surgeries. I was telling John before we got on, the open heart surgeries were really about opening the hearts of everybody around him, which is really an
Yep.
interesting way of looking at it because we went from devastation to so much learned. And I'm just wondering what effect and what impact that has on you, not just as a dad, but just basically overall in terms of the gratitude of life. And I know it changed me. It changed my work. It changed who I am. It changed everything about my approach to things and how I saw things. And first of all, how is your son, TJ? How is he doing? And I would want to report that my son is 41 today. Today's his birthday. And he ran a
Amazing.
marathon and he plays 5 hours of pickleball 3 times a week. And he's a kid that they didn't expect to live past 2 years old, but in an environment that's safe, which filled with a lot of encouragement and love and teaching the right way as you're doing. I'm wondering if there's anything there for you to speak to.
Well, it warms my heart to hear that he's 41 and doing so well. So is he still a single ventricle? Like, is he still living with single ventricle anatomy?
Absolutely, absolutely.
At 41, that I can't tell you how that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. He's got a single ventricle. He's got a transposition of the major arteries,
Yeah, of course.
and
Yeah.
you should watch him run the marathon and
Oh, I
playing
bet.
pickleball. It's just amazing, and so he's very inspirational for a lot of kids.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so TJ was single ventricle. He only his single ventricle anatomy only lasted 8 years. His heart eventually failed when he was 8. So he underwent he had a full heart transplant back in 2021. So he's about to celebrate his 4-year heart anniversary like in 3 weeks, June 4th. So yeah, so he's doing great. I coach his baseball team. He's coming out for the football team this year in middle school. He's never played football before. But he started doing all the workouts with us and he'll go through all the summer. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, he's doing great. Great in school, smart kid, funny kid, has a great outlook on life. If he was sitting here right now, you would never know what he's been through. But he's been through a lot, 4 open heart surgeries before he was 8. And then obviously at 8, a full heart transplant. So he's been through the ringer, but he's come out better. He's come out better off. And I agree. We always say we wouldn't wish this on anyone. we wouldn't wish that anyone goes through that journey and watch their kids, fight for their life after heart surgery and laying in those beds and the uncertainty and the fear and all that. But the good that has come from it, with our charity work and, the connections and the families that we've met and the hope and the story of TJ and the hope that he's provided a lot of families that we've gotten to know, and that, when they get the diagnosis, they reach out to us and they say, we heard about TJ and how well he's doing.
Yeah.
Our son or daughter is about to have a heart transplant, but like knowing that your son's doing so well gives us such comfort. Like we wouldn't trade any of that. So if we could somehow undo all the pain he's gone through, but still have all of the reciprocal that's come from it, we wouldn't ever trade it. And I'm so glad to hear that your son's doing well. I hope that's TJ when he's 41. But that's a great story, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah, I think the environment had a lot to do with it. His mom's a physician, and she's a good doctor, and she knows really how to heal and take care of people. And his environment was very upbeat, positive, good diet. Another thing, very good diet all his life, and he's still to this day and very active. But the thing that really impresses me and about my experience is how it changed me and how it made me more sensitive and more grateful. Where I see a lot of youth parents out there complaining and moaning about the kids didn't get enough playing time, didn't get enough playing minutes and stuff like that. When there's so many big things going on, I think adversity such as this really makes us better coaches, better parents, and better able to understand when we're coaching the struggles that other kids are having as well. Is that true?
Yeah, listen, perspective is a very powerful thing, and I think it's something that we all get again, I'll speak for myself, maybe not all of us. I think we all get perspective at various times. I know I could do a lot better job keeping that perspective longer. I think you get it and you say, hey, let's reprioritize what's really important. Does it really matter? All these other things. And then as anything, time goes on and you kind of fall back into your old habits and you fall back into your own paths. And then it takes something else to kind of kickstart you and say, oh my God, like, why am I getting so upset over these little things? There's so many other bigger fish. There's so many other bigger issues out there. So I think that the struggle with perspective, I think, is something that a lot of people struggle with. I know that's something because I'm so singular minded. To me, like how you do everything, how you do some things is how you do everything. I want to be great at everything. I want everyone else around me to be great at everything. And if we're going to do it, we're going to win. And if we're going to do it, we're going to be great. Like, it's just the way my brain works. And then every once in a while, I need to like take a reset and say, like, have I lost priority here? Have I lost perspective? And a lot of the times I say, yeah, I have. And I got to figure out a better way. And so it's that constant back and forth where you kind of have to reset yourself when you let things kind of go too far. And, that's just something I think at least for me personally, that's something I'm always going to have to wrestle with, because like, I just sometimes can't wrap my head around certain scenarios. Like, what do you mean you don't care as much as I do? Like, why would you not care? It's just hard, and to expect other people to always see things the way you do. But at the end of the day, the health, the happiness of these kids, of your family, that is really what it's all rooted in. And we all could get caught up in the chase and the grind and the team and the event and the school and the coach and the teacher. And the daily, the days are long and the years are short. And then all of a sudden you blink and it's over. And you say, was it any of it worth it?
Yeah. And so I consider Danny is his name. Danny is my Zen master in residence. So whenever I get out there too far and I lose perspective, he has a way of bringing me back. And so it's a wonderful gift in that sense. But anyway.
Yeah, awesome. Guys, I'd love to keep it going, but I know we don't want to leave those kids out there on the field. So Greg, just last piece, tell people how they can connect with You Think and the work you're doing there and everything to make youth sports better as well. It would be wonderful.
Yeah, so we set out on this journey at You Think, really just a lot of the things that we've talked about on the show, and just the journey of getting better information, educating ourselves, helping ourselves improve, and then as a byproduct, sharing a lot of those conversations and lessons with other people. And what started as a singular podcast hosted by me, interviewing specialists and athletes and professionals all across the youth sports landscape, we really came and said, hey, there's something bigger here. There's a bigger platform that we can be of service. So we launched You Think as a content and commerce platform. We're about to go live here in the next day or two, and we think it's going to be a platform to not only educate, to elevate just the access to great information on everything from how to teach your kid to kick a soccer ball to what's the best way to handle a tough loss. What's the best way to talk to your kid after a challenging situation on a team or a coach, and everything in between. So we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of really interesting pieces of content that are going to go live on that site. And then from there, there's a really cool commerce component where people, if you're buying, trying to support your son or daughter's club team, school team, high school, junior varsity, whatever it is, a very convoluted way of getting merchandise, getting equipment, teamwear, fanwear into your home to support your son and daughter. We always say, like, who's your favorite team? It's whatever team your kid's playing on. But we have all these really cool Golden State Warriors. We love Steve Kerr, and we have all these cool Golden State Warriors hoodies. How come the hoodie I wear for my kid's high school doesn't fit? And how come it comes down to my forearms and I wouldn't wear it if it wasn't that day? So it's a really cool opportunity, a cool platform. We hope people come check us out. And the world of youth sports is what we do, and it's what we love. And we're just trying to make it a little bit of a better experience for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Well, Greg, thank you
Amen.
so much for your time today, for your wisdom. I know we could have gone another hour and a half because we're all so passionate about making the experience better for kids, but also at the same time making it, a truly life-changing one, because sport can have such an incredible impact. And our role as coaches, our role as parents is so important. And we need to keep filling that knowledge gap. So thanks for everything that you are doing and your team is doing to do that as well. And really, really, truly appreciate you being on the Way of Champions.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys. I enjoyed it.
Jerry, that was a great talk. We could have talked with Greg for a lot longer. You can see his passion for all things
Well, yeah,
youth sports and coaching and everything. We didn't even get to talk about his,
no, no,
Emmy
no.
winning broadcasting work either.
It's like press this button and he just goes like the ever ready battery. It just keeps going on and on and on. And we had to stop him to throw in some ideas and thoughts. But and everything he says is relevant. I think if you listen closely to everything the way he expressed everything with youth sports for such a young man in life to have that kind of perspective, well, not perspective, but insight into all this. He really knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's really capitalized on his experience,
Mhm.
and it was really clear that he learned this at an early age, and it just developed over time. And
Mhm.
he kept coming back and said, "No, maybe this is just me." Very vulnerable, being able to be vulnerable and say, it might not be for everybody, and this is maybe just me. Maybe I don't have this right, kind of thing. And authenticity, I guess, is the word that
Yeah,
I'm
I think that's a
feeling about him. Amazing authenticity. I, I
if
I
it,
would trust him. You know what I mean? Like if I'm a parent, I trust him already.
well, yeah, I think that's a great word. And you picture yourself as a parent going to his youth baseball practice, and at the end of it or after the game, him calling the kids in and the parents in, like,
Yeah, yeah.
listen to the post game talk, set the
Powerful.
tone for
That was powerful.
what's going to happen afterwards, and things like that. And then this philosophy, one of the things I wrote down, right? The better you are, the harder you have to be coached. And
Hmm.
so often the opposite of that happens. The
Yeah.
kid with the ability, the things that we
They're,
see,
they're left to float out
we
there.
don't
Yeah.
coach them as hard
Yeah.
because they can get away with less than stellar
Yeah.
behavior, respect,
Hmm.
hard work, attention to detail.
Hmm.
But his point is, like, the better you are, the harder I'm going to coach you, because
Hmm.
eventually everyone in that locker room is going to be big, fast, and strong.
Yeah.
And you better, and the one who has been coached
Yeah.
for 5 years
Yeah.
is going to be the better player versus the
Yeah.
one with the ability that's been allowed to slide by. Very powerful point.
Yeah. Very powerful. And the other thing to hitchhike on that is his whole point about uh, almost, I'm going to use the word recruiting youth teams. I mean, when one of my sons, Sean, was a high school basketball athlete. uh, the coach recruited kids from other counties, from other places
Hmm.
around the state, and they won a state champ. My son was part of a state championship team, but the whole team was recruited. There were
Hmm.
only about 4 kids from Santa Cruz on that team,
Hmm.
and the rest were from outside. And
Hmm.
they recruited and they won. But you know what? It was empty. It was like, so what? Uh,
Hmm.
as opposed to having the kids in Santa Cruz work hard and get to a place where they came together and they, yeah. So I like that building championships is one thing, but building character and meaning and purpose is another. And I like the fact that he leans toward the latter part of
Hmm.
that continuum.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Well, this was a wonderful conversation. Again, check it out in the show notes, all the links to Youth Inc. and their new site. And then they have a great Instagram presence with a lot of different interviewers and interviewees across a variety of sports. So soccer specific and lacrosse specific and all that. Thanks again to Greg Olsen. Thanks to Sprocket Sports. Thanks to all of our great supporters who have used the Champion Teammate or the Champion Sports Parent book, and everything that we've done here.
And there's
Yeah, and
something
thank
you
you
want
for
to
all for sharing. Yeah,
there's something you
yeah,
want to remind people of before we get off, right?
I think so. I mean,
What would that
this
be?
is a big, I just spent a bunch of time in Pennsylvania with some mountain biking coaches talking about influence, and they made a sticker for us that said your influence is never neutral. So a great reminder that they could stick on their books, on their champion teammate book, and go back out to their programs across the state and remind all the kids that their influence is never neutral, and remind all their coaches that, their influence is never neutral, and the more aware of it you are, the more
Boy,
powerful it is.
if there's any message that we give, there's certainly one of those.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for
Yeah.
listening, and we'll see you again next week.